think a female president, hypothetically speaking, should there be one, would change the dynamic of this conversation? I have found it so interesting as a reporter that we don't even report on the fact that you could have a female president. Like, it's really not even been a headline that this historic thing could happen in the next few weeks, because it's really been blown off the front page and every other page by sort of the crazy of the day. So what do you think, just crazy conversations of the day, not specifically individuals. So how does a conversation change?
Well, the biggest one is having that visual also of just for girls, of a symbol of having our first female president and be able to feel like there's just no barriers and that you could reach the highest office in the land. So I think that is obviously very important. But, and I also think that we celebrate it in the same way that we celebrated Barack Obama's as our first African-American president, elected twice, of just changing the faces that we see up there. And I think that's very powerful, just signifying that there is change. But I am curious about the fact that, Joe Biden said this a couple of days ago, and if it was in an interview or a speech, that he thought, and I tend to agree, especially with what we've seen in this election season, that we may see more sexism as a result of her being president, just in the same way that we, maybe thought that with Barack Obama that it would somehow diminish racism. In many ways, it caused it to flare up, and I feel the same way with Hillary. But I think that's healthy. I think if we get it all sort of out there, then we can actually see it and hopefully have dialogue and work on it so that by the next time we have maybe our next female president, some of that will be out of the way. So I think it'll be very important on all of those levels. But I think it will not necessarily be a smooth ride.
It's interesting. I don't feel like it's, and I never was a believer that we were going to be post-racial once we elected the first black president. Truly, I always thought that there would be some backlash, and I think we've seen it. And so I wonder, your vision of like, we get it all out there. I actually think a lot of the hostile racial tenor of the conversation we're having today is some part brought about by people having a backlash reaction to a black president who have found a voice coalesced, maybe supported by technology. So I'm not sure that when it comes to sexism, that like we'll all just talk it out and it might be unpleasant, but at the end we'll move through it, because I'm not sure when it comes to race that we've moved through it. I think we've opened a really a Pandora's box to some degree that we haven't been in for decades.
I wanted to jump in and say, and again, sort of answering this question and the last one, I think the conversation will change because there'll be more discussion of caregiving. And I think having a mother and a grandmother in office, she already, if it's Hillary, talks quite a bit about wanting to provide more access to care, which is something that women of color do disproportionately. And so when we talk about how feminism has left out women of color, I think we're also talking about the ways that feminism has left out the work of care from its central platform. And I think in part, and this is not to get too dorky, but like second wave feminism really focused a lot on making women equal to men by showing that they could be the same as men and they could do everything that men did. And so it was somewhat, if not left out, then certainly diminished the things that women seem to be doing uniquely. And that often included women of color. And I think with a female president, we're going to see much more centrality to that discussion of the work of care that is so often diminished and made invisible. And again, that women of color disproportionately do, and that girls of color do.